there, it's Ilse B here with some stories, cautions, and tips for aspiring entrepreneurs or solopreneurs who want to build a team while stretching their dollar set aside for investment. If you're a beginner entrepreneur who has created online content, sooner or later you'll encounter people who try to start conversations with you through your social media access points or via email, hoping to sell you their services. Sometimes those will be cold pitches telling you what's wrong with you, how you do things, and how they can fix it. But some people have a different approach. They may like your posts and comment on something you have said, but the whole idea is to get you engaged so that they can start a conversation with you and then sell you their services. I'll start today's conversation by sharing with you a recent encounter like that. This is what one Instagram guy wrote to me. Hey Ilse, I see you're posting quite consistently. What's the goal behind your content? I usually don't reply, but this time I did because I am growing my team, so I was curious what he would have to say. And here's what I wrote back. I'm guessing you asked because you want to offer me something. If so, what is it? He answered, I do want to offer you something, but first I need to understand what it is that you are trying to achieve. I didn't bother to explain. I didn't invite him to interview me. So here's what he wrote back. I saw your website. I like your mission and I would love to help you give more people a voice. How long have you been coaching? What got you started? Here you see, he's trying to show his interest in me, but if his interest was genuine, he would have consumed more of my content and asked better questions. To show that your interest is genuine, you demonstrate that you have done your homework and you can talk about some specifics. Anyway, the psychology or tactics behind such conversation starters is not the topic of this conversation. It will be about how he unknowingly helped me by giving me an idea about this post or episode, wherever you are watching or listening. So today I will share 3 stories and they will answer that Instagram guy's question, what got you started? If you are a new or aspiring entrepreneur who doesn't have much experience in building a business or team with limited financing, this might be for you. So let's dive in. If you have listened to my podcast, She Became CEO, from when I started it, you know my human story. You know that I started that podcast after trauma had shut me down. I have openly shared how I stopped showing up on social media because I felt blocked. It was my nervous system protecting me. However, I never completely stopped working. I just didn't post on social media about what I do. This might be you who has a lot of experience but keeps quiet about your gifts that you could offer to the world. Or because you are simply busy doing your work, or you don't know how to start, or some trauma is blocking you just like it was blocking me. Anyhow, to answer how I started coaching, here's my first story. Responding to a real-life situation in which I was becoming a mom of 2 minors, I started working remotely from home in Latvia, which is my birth country. Before I got pregnant with my second child, I sold a successful business that required my being away from home at night. And during pregnancy and the first 2 years after the birth of my second child, I worked as a translator from home. However, as I got more and more assignments, I had no time for administrative stuff. So I founded a company, rented an office space, bought the necessary office equipment, figured out the first systems and processes, and hired an administrator. Then I trained her in those systems and processes that I had designed. My first employees were my first coachees, and I already had experience coaching people before I had to train that administrator. I trained her well because with a good administrator in the office, I could still work from home and be with my kids if I had to. And that was the beginning of my Latvian translation company, Dodam, back in 2006 in Latvia. Being a mom I also understood other moms, so I grew my company to be mom friendly. By the way, how many companies in the US are mom friendly? My experience is that if you are a business owner and the majority of your employees are women, focus on the culture and you will get rewarded. Further, I will share with you why I'm saying that. My translation company, Duodam in Latvia, was my longest lasting business. Thanks to my two partners, who were both my employees at the beginning, the company survived my absence after I moved to the US. Unfortunately, COVID hit us in a way that we didn't recover from it completely because it destroyed the sense of community in the company. Everybody started working from home, and that killed the spirit. By that time, I had already registered a new business in the United States named LZB LLC and was busy with that. And as a leader of Duodam Translations, I was not there enough to consolidate and inspire my team. As a result, my partners announced that they wanted to pursue other passions, and we closed the company down in May of 2024. A few months earlier, it had become of age, namely, my company had turned 18. It was like I had raised a child and had to let go. However, everything we do in life can be transformed into a new quality. After liquidation of Duodam, LZB LLC took over some corporate clients and continued serving them. So that is what has been going on in the background. Now, before I share my next story with you, I have a question. What can you use from your past to transform and build from to create a new quality? My story number 2 is about how you don't always need a clear plan for what you want to accomplish. More often, it works best if you decide simply to conquer your most annoying mental blockage by starting to take a small action to change the trajectory. For me, it was starting my podcast, She Became CEO. First, I only created solo episodes, and the main goal really was purely personal. I didn't care how many listeners I had or if I had any at all. However, some algorithms recommended my podcast for guests, and when I received the first pitches, I was really nervous, but I also had a new goal: get over that nervousness. And as I started interviewing guests, they gave me ideas. If you listen carefully to those episodes where I interview people, there are so many ideas you can borrow and adjust to your circumstances. It's actually like a gold mine. For example, I remember Asghari Lipshi shared her opinion that boring businesses are safer. Asghari has a company named Asghari, and this company helps people to secure SBA loans for their location-based services businesses, such as cleaning or landscaping. Asghari is reserved when it comes to what she calls passion businesses, because she had had an unfortunate personal experience, so she cautions against them. However, you don't need to take every expert's opinion literally. Take what resonates, take those ideas. You know your situation best. What Asghari said about location businesses, though, resonated with me for several reasons. First, I had a positive human experience with my location-based business in Latvia. Second, the model I had set up was good because the client pool was diversified, and I'm talking about that company that I had in Latvia. See, to attract the individual clients who needed notarized translations, we had strategically picked office locations. By the way, cheapest solutions don't work best when you choose where to set up an office. Clients favor places that look professional, feel safe, and where they can park their cars. You know your business better, as I said. You know those criteria. In our case, our offices were always next to other service providers, such as lawyers, the court, or the police, to whom the clients may submit or from whom they may pick their document translations. We also participated in public procurements as a company to serve municipal or regional government entities. Public contracts ensured us a regular cash flow. And moreover, we also worked as subcontractors for larger European companies that had won large European projects. And we were a part of their larger team. And that's how we diversified our business. That's also one of the reasons why you hear me asking my podcast guests about their preferences regarding location based or online businesses. Here in the US, up until very recently, I had been focusing only on working online. And while there is a low entry cost and I have a lot of experience working online, I acknowledge that competition in the virtual world has become tougher, and the acquisition of clients via electronic means is becoming more and more expensive. And that's why my current strategy is to diversify my business according to the same principle I had it with my business in Latvia. Yet, of course, I'm adjusting it to the current situation and location. Moreover, if you are someone who has moved to a new place, you'll probably agree that it is not easy to make friends once you are an adult. But starting a business can be a good way to do it. And that way, as a leader, you can also build or at least influence the culture around you. And that's what I'm focusing on right now, while also gradually reappearing on the online space. Namely, I am building a services company to support professionals and organizations with documentation, writing, translation, proofreading, and administrative preparation, with a focus also on preparing bids for public contracts. And to be able to do that all seamlessly and impeccably, I am designing initial systems and processes so that I can hire well. Which brings me to the third story of today: hiring. As I mentioned at the start, I constantly receive pitches from service providers. For example, I often receive offers to build my website or to help me crank up the statistics of my YouTube channel. To give you an example of YouTube, such people may approach you and promise to work until the number of subscribers increases by a certain number. They may say, "You don't have to pay if we don't deliver." Sounds tempting, right? There are variations of this, but that is not the point. My point is that a business owner has to be extremely cautious when considering accepting such offers, especially if they come from entities outside the United States or whatever country you are from. I'll give you a few reasons why I'm saying this. I have received offers like this from developing countries such as Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. They are supposedly countries where young people focus on acquiring skills in technology, and some of them might be highly qualified, but the problems may arise due to differences in business culture and regulations. And I'll explain what I mean by giving examples of what I have seen personally. Often such people present themselves as a company on their websites. Yes, they have websites, but actually they don't have a registered business. If you engaged and work with them based on an email discussion or a conversation on Zoom, which they would probably invite you to, you will see the first problems once you receive their first invoice. On the invoice, you will be asked to transfer payments to an individual, not to a company, while the letterhead will state it is a company, and probably they would have signed the invoice as a CEO or chief accountant, but such an invoice won't be valid for your books if the business has not been registered in the official register of the service provider country. As a result, you can have legal and financial consequences in your country. Talking about the US, do you know that to protect yourself before starting to collaborate with someone from another country, you would have to explain to them that you either need to receive a proof of registration of their business in their country, or if they have not yet duly registered their business, they would have to fill out Form W8B This abbreviation stands for Certificate of Foreign Status of Beneficial Owner for United States Tax Withholding and Reporting for individuals. There should be an equivalent of this form or procedure in your country if you are not in the US. I know that in Latvia, the accounting software that I used wouldn't process transactions before the business registration number or an individual ID number of a person in the service provider's account was entered. Now, more on Form W8BEN and why you want it filled out. On this form, foreign nationals have to provide certain personal information, including their address and foreign tax ID number. If they don't want to provide that data, it is a red flag. The said form basically establishes them as contractors outsourced from another country instead of employees in the US. This form will protect you from the obligation to pay taxes on them in your country, and also from the liability of employing people without work permits. If you don't have this kind of paperwork in place, you are at a huge penalty risk. A more secure way to hire outsourced help is through a third party, such as Fiverr or Upwork. But it is a topic with a few nuances as well that are good to know before you start. However, I won't discuss them here today. I help my clients to sort through those issues if they are interested. Also, watch for other red flags. I once arranged a conversation with someone advertising as a young female having 5 years experience in her field. However, when I went on a Zoom call to interview her, there was a man. I only saw the hairy part of the side of the young woman's face. And the only words the woman said were, "Hello, ma'am," when she greeted me at the beginning of the conversation, and "Have a good day, ma'am," at the end of the conversation. And by the way, her hairline and skin color didn't look like that of the woman in the picture on her web page. The woman in the picture looked Asian and had shorter hair, while the woman whom I barely saw looked like a Bangladeshi or Indian. I felt bad for her and I wanted to give her an opportunity to earn, but the man representing her or the team as they presented themselves seemed pleasant and a smooth talker, but I didn't consider engaging with them in a professional transaction even for a minute after such a masquerade. Moreover, if you consider bidding for public contracts, as I do, your chances of winning are close to zero if you don't do things right. In addition, think about the security of your data and the data of your clients if you assign jobs to suspicious entities. The consequences can be painful. So, those are just a few tips for today for aspiring entrepreneurs or solopreneurs considering growing their team. I understand that it can be tempting to go for the lowest price, but I recommend considering more criteria than just the rate. I usually negotiate terms in a written agreement, but that's a conversation for another time. To summarize what I have said so far, first, only a few people are born to be good speakers. For the rest of us, speaking takes practice, not only in front of a mirror, but also in front of real audience. Start small, but dare to speak unapologetically about things you have experienced. Find confidence in knowing that your experiences are your raw material to use to build something new. Sometimes people hoard materials thinking they will use them, but they never really do. And as time goes by, they sink in the hoard and their complexes. Gifts that you don't use to share to benefit others can become just that, a hoard. Second, you don't always need to have a clear and solid plan to start acting and move the needle. Often the clarity appears as events evolve. It is normal to talk to people while you are still in the process of crafting your messages. Don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking that you must sound perfect or you must have it all figured out. That process needs to take the time that the clarity requires for it to emerge. And third, hiring is one of the most significant, if not the most significant skills an entrepreneur needs to spend time on mastering. There are a lot of nuances to learn, and you will probably make mistakes, but you can make fewer mistakes if you learn from someone who's shared their tips with you. If you are interested in learning tips from me, I invite you to contact me to discuss this. But now, before I wrap it up, I'd like to say a few words about passion projects. I recently had a conversation with an expert and advisor at Winston-Salem Women's Business Center. He says that starting a business is never easy, even though it may appear that it is from a distance. Business owners need persistence and resiliency to get through the most difficult part, which is the beginning. Those who are into it because of their passion, he says, seem to have more patience and seem to have more creative solutions to make things work. My passions are art, creativity, neuroscience, language, and maintaining a healthy brain and having a healthy life after midlife and beyond. And that's what I'm creating my online content around. I mainly speak to women in midlife who have been moms, who have devoted their lives primarily to raising their children, but who can transition more successfully now to a different phase of their life and enjoy it. I don't think life without passion projects is a fulfilled life. So if you would like to experience coaching with me around any of those areas I discussed, shoot me a message at support@shebecameceo.com and let's set up a Zoom meeting to discuss details. But that's it for me today. Let me know if you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes. Thank you for watching. Till the next time.